Please give a really warm welcome to Maureen Blandford.
I'm so excited to be here. What a lovely day, hasn't it been? Love the B2B marketing folks, and this always just feels like family to me with a bunch of like-minded folks. Irrespective of that, I'm angry. I have been angry for a really long time. So most of my career has been in B2B. My whole career has been B2B, and for most of that time, I have worried about the nonsense in B2B, sales and marketing. We have to put up with quite a lot of noise from the market while we're trying to do some great work. Right? So before we get started, I have a couple questions. No right or wrong answers. How many folks here are not selling to marketers? Any other functional area that's not marketers? Nothing wrong with marketers, obviously. Look at all of you who are not selling to marketers. Marketers are such a completely different functional area and buy very differently, as you may know. So the rest of us are probably selling to CIO organizations, procurement, F&A, good heavens. And then this is a topic that I wasn't anticipating would be hit on so much today, but how many of us are not fully utilizing all of our tech and our tech stacks? We are all in the right place. So what I would like to do today is start a conversation, and I mean that. I hope we spark a conversation that we continue to work with each other on about the integration leaks and really the noise in the market and what that costs us as marketers and marketing organizations. So we'll be covering what is going on. How is this happening? What can we do? That's my agenda. What is going on? Why is this happening? What can we do? So to do that, I want to talk about a couple of trends that have been around for a while, but in the last couple of years, I think have gotten particularly noisy. I want to talk about the shamers, and I want to talk about magical tech promises, also known as they have a number to hit to, right? So the shamers. There are two organizations, two types of ecosystems that I think do a lot of shaming. In fact, they sell to us by shaming us. We've got the tech founder ecosystem, and we have the content cabal, and it is a cabal. And then a little bit the analysts, but I won't focus on them too much today. So tech founder ecosystem, content cabal. And they sell to us by shaming us, which is a really weird sales tactic, but it sort of has been working for them. And I'd like to put an end to that. So let's talk a little bit about the shaming. Tell me what resonates for you. Why don't marketers get data? Marketers, if you would just embrace data, your lives would be so much better. Can you just pay attention to the data? Is that a message y'all have heard from the MarTech ecosystem and the content cabal over the years? I'm not even going to go into what they declare king and what they declare dead, because good heavens, that changes every 8 months. This one I love. It's not enough content, marketers. You need to be doing more content. You need to blog 5 days a week. No, actually, you need to blog 3 times a day, 5 days a week. Not enough content. It's too much content, marketers. You're doing too much. It should be quality over quantity. Is this familiar? Are we not tired of hearing that? I'm angry. It's outbound, no, it's inbound. It's a funnel, no, it's flip the funnel. Actually, it's a waterfall. No, it's a flywheel. I mean, what is going on? That is bananas. But one of the things that really hacks me off is this idea that marketers need to be more brave. In fact, yes, hilarious. I think that's hilarious. But there was a tech conference in the US last year, a big tech conference, where their whole theme was that marketers needed to be more brave. Have they met us? I mean, seriously, be more brave, marketers? That is such BS. I can hardly even stand it. So there's a whole lot of shaming going on here. And the thing that really gets me about the loudest voices in shaming, these people could not do your jobs. They would not last in your jobs for a week. They would not last in your jobs for a week. And there are some reasons for that. It's because the folks who are doing the shaming, selling by shaming, the folks that are doing that have not been on a marketing team, they haven't led a marketing team in forever. unless, of course, they're selling to marketers, which is a different buying functional area. It just is. Marketers buy in a different way than other functional areas do. Watch me do some tech support for myself. See how well that works. Oh, I had to punch in my thing. Oh my God. Okay, forgive me. I'm trying not to say my password out loud because that's a thing I do. Voila. So anyway, that sums up that, is these folks cannot do your jobs, and here's why. If they haven't been on a team or led a team in forever, they don't understand the incredible nuance and complexity in all our different organizations. We all inherit, whether we're joining or leading a team, we inherit different systems. We cannot rip and replace. We cannot rip and replace tech. We cannot rip and replace humans. We cannot rip and replace our leaders, even though sometimes we want to. We can't rip and replace. We have to work with what we have, right? And they cannot understand that. Good people, though they might be in their hearts. So I'm just going to give you a couple of examples here. So you may be on a team or inherit a team that's very mature. And there are pros and cons to that, right? So you might have people who have been around forever, who are really good strategically, but may not get digital. Or you may inherit a team that's very young, and so they need development. And all these things take time. You might have, I've had 2 jobs in the last 5 years that were on different ends of the spectrum regarding databases. So I've had one company, Jane and I worked at the same company in Dublin, where our database was probably 10 or 12 years old. And that's amazing because it's big, but it's also crap. You know, the data is dirty, it's hard to segment. And then in my last role in Amsterdam, I was building digital from the ground up. So I had no data, I had no historical data, but it was all clean and beautiful. I just had very little of it. So I won't go through all of these things here, but the problem is that unless you're in these situations, all of this stuff takes time. It takes time to develop people, it takes time to build infrastructure, it takes time to clean data, and on and on and on. It takes time to convince your peers in other organizations. So the shamers like to say all this stuff about what we're not getting as though we're sitting around twiddling our thumbs and have the option to do fabulous content that of course is going to get approved by all the other groups that need to get approval from. That's not our reality. And that's the thing that really ticks me off, is they don't understand the reality. We're all working really, really hard in suboptimal conditions, so we've got some really awesome stuff going on, but we also have crazy stuff going on. All right, I'm gonna do this better, and I'm gonna start touching the screen more so it doesn't go away. Don't say your password out loud, Maureen, because that's bad. So anyhow, so there we go, the shamers. So if there's one thing that I want any of you to think, the first thing I want you to think when you hear or see this shaming going on, it's the bad place, y'all. We don't need to listen to it. We don't need to take it on. We can reject it and move on. But in particular, I don't want anyone taking on the shame stuff that's going on, whether you're a Brene Brown fan or not. It's just stupid. It's a sales tactic that has worked, and we need to reject it. Okay, the magical tech promises. This is what we're sold. This is what we end up with. And this is how we feel. Okay, here's a super boring story, which I'm trying not to oversell, but it's important, I think. So Tuesday of this week, I'm sure you all will be able to relate to this. Tuesday of this week, so I'm 6 weeks into my new role. I've inherited some fabulous things. I have the world's best boss. I want to be her friend for the rest of my life. So some really good things. I have a team that is passionate, and I have some senior folks and some junior folks. But this week, we haven't ever done LinkedIn promoted posts before at my current company, and we haven't really done like fancy webinars. And I've inherited, because we have a shared resources model where corporate has some of the team, and you have to like put in a request to do a social card, and it's really painful, and it takes a long time to get that stuff done. But we're doing a webinar, and I've inherited a really suboptimal webinar platform, which I won't name, but it's not on 24, and I wish it was. So I have this webinar platform. I promised you this would be super boring, but it's important. So we were doing the thing, we're standing up LinkedIn promoted posts. I couldn't remember how to do it because it's been a couple years. So again, my presentation should be featuring Jane Warren because I'm always talking to her. So I call up Jane and I ask her if she'll spend half an hour with my team and get us spun up on that. And then we're ready to do a promoted post for the webinar, right? So we go to the webinar platform, our landing page, we get that URL, we go to our LinkedIn company page, we put the URL on there, and it should just populate, right? With the graphic and the metadata that you could probably edit, and no, it was shit. Like, I don't know what was going on. And meanwhile, so as CMO, I'm in with the LinkedIn promoted post, and now I'm looking for photographs, and I know I can't go to shared resources and get something done because I gotta get this stuff up and promoted, and I'm teaching some junior people. Do you see where I'm going with this? And then one of my team was digging around and found a different URL for our landing page that actually promoted, actually populated properly, but still we had to go in and work the photo and blah, blah, blah. Like, are you all not running into that kind of stuff in your daily lives? Like, is this familiar? Marketers, why don't you get data? You just were more brave about data. I mean, it's bananas. It's bananas. So anyway, here's the important part. I got scared that it was going to go back. So this is what we're sold. This is what we end up with. This is how we feel. And it's time to say no now. Let's talk about our tech stacks. Okay. Foundational tech. We're talking about CRMs and marketing automation platforms. This stuff does not work as advertised. There's a lot of really great features with every tech piece that any of us use, a lot of really great features, but also doesn't work as advertised. And if we think about Scott Brinker's, which I'm not going to show it, Scott Brinker's landscape, most of that stuff is Band-Aid tech, right? To plug the gaps that we're getting in our foundational tech, and when you add an app, that causes downstream stuff. And it's nuts. So the salient point for me, for the last 3 years, budget is not an issue for me. I can get budget if we need it. The thing I care about the most is integration. Because when we don't have integration right, when the tools don't talk to each other and there are no humans in the loop helping us, each piece of tech that we have requires capacity to learn it, to onboard it, to use it, and then troubleshoot the downstream issues that come up with it, right? And we are doing workarounds and we're plugging gaps all the time for every piece of tech in our tech stack. Is that not true? So when people say, why aren't you using your tech? It's like, because we're racing. I feel like, and I've been at several different companies in the last 5 years, I feel like a lot of our work is really spent plugging gaps. And if we have the budget to get outside resources to work on content or other things, that's really great. But our time is really taken up managing this stuff. A couple of examples. Oh good, I was reading the clock wrong. So I said I would bring receipts. And here they are, because thanks to Gareth for sharing his numbers earlier this morning. That's so compelling to me when people are willing to share that data, because it's so beneficial, and I can't share it because I can't be public with it. But I don't know if any of you have been targeted with the It's Better in Lightning from Salesforce. And what is hilarious to me about that is Salesforce cannot get us to use Lightning. Since 2014, Salesforce has been trying to get us to use Lightning. How many of us have been in Salesforce trying to use Lightning because it's sort of prettier, but we pop back over into Classic because there's functionality. Yes, there's functionality in Classic that does not exist in Lightning, or you can't find it. Salesforce can't get this right. And there's a lot of great stuff about Salesforce. How many of you have been impressed? Next example, the Gmail example. Has it been sort of scary, impressive, how much Gmail can guess how we're going to finish our sentences? Like, it's bizarre, right? It's so cool. And at first I was really scared, and then I was like, hell yeah, that's what I was gonna say, return, awesome. But, same example, it can fill in let me know, which is not the best example of it filling in sentences, but the sentence just above, just checking to see if Gmail never knows that I never intend to capitalize the first 2 letters of any word. And to me, that is such a great example of the stuff we're dealing with every day. Because tech is like this dichotomy. It's really great and really awful. And the awful really sucks up a lot of time. Middle example. Have any of us recently been targeted by a job ad that was actually relevant? I mean, seriously. And these platforms that we're using, how many of us in the room, so many of us in the room are giving money to these platforms to target our people, and these platforms don't know how to target us. Like bananas, you know? And this is the stuff, again, back to the shamers. They don't see this level of detail of the stuff that we're dealing with. Now here's a happy story, and I'll have some anger at the end, but it's a happy story. We were lucky enough, David, I saw you here somewhere. David. So David McGuire's company, Radix Communications, which some of you may know, copywriting. So David and I have wanted to work together for a long time. He's just onboarded him for a pretty big project with us. But they turned around, his team turned around a copy for an asset that was not only great, but they turned it around very quickly. And I was so happy with it. But the coolest thing for me, so this is a tweet of mine on the end, was our head of sales was reviewing this asset and actually commented on how great the copy was. Never in my career have I had a head of sales notice the copy. And it's not because, to be fair, it's not because I've always done shit copy. You know, we've done great copy, but I just was really moved that she noticed it, and so I tweeted. And the really nice thing, the second really nice thing, is that the Velocity guys, you know, so Doug Kessler's team, brilliant wordsmiths as well, they showed this tweet a lot of love. And I thought that was so nice that they were just like, yay, copywriters, even though they're kind of competitors. And Harry here, who some of you may know, retweeted my tweet about David's company. And I was like, I love B2B people. So cool. Okay, so now I'm excited and happy. But if you'll notice at the bottom, so you can see up here it's a screen grab that Harry retweeted it, but down here, you're only seeing likes and not a retweet, right in the bottom. So I'm looking at that and I'm thinking, wow, did Harry, you would think I remember, but I'm so excited to be here. So I was thinking, did Harry retweet it and then delete it? And I went to his page, and no, he hadn't. It was there on his page. So then I went to Twitter Analytics, and Twitter Analytics wasn't showing the retweet. And again, in the scheme of things, this is not a big deal. But it's materially important because this is the kind of stuff we're all doing. We see stuff like this in our data where it doesn't make sense, and then you have to go down a rabbit hole to try and figure it out. And it takes time. Times every piece of tech in our stacks and every channel. It's nuts. So why is this happening? We allow it. They've created the narrative arc, and we've accepted it. The MarTech founder ecosystem and the content cabal. They've created the narrative arc, and we've accepted it. We can't do that. We go to their conferences, we pay for stuff. B2B marketing is literally the only conference and only program I've ever resourced sending a team to because it's such a great investment. I would not send my team to any other conference in the world ever because it's such junk. And we don't call out their nonsense. So I'm going to call out an analyst here. Actually had an analyst DM me this on Twitter, so please allow me to do a dramatic interpretation of this tweet for you. Serious Decisions tells us the goal of a campaign is to have a deep, data-driven understanding of the persona based on the persona attributes. So first of all, no, that's not the goal of a campaign, and what are you even talking about? But oh, they're trying to sell us their buyer persona framework. Like, this is nuts, and I just think this is a particularly good example of what we're fed in B2B marketing from the tech founders and from the content cabal. It's nuts, and we need to put an end to it. So we've let it, they've created the narrative arc, we've accepted it. Also the bad place. Also the bad place. So what can we do? Together, we can't do this alone. I've been shouting at the MarTech ecosystem forever. Together, we can hold them more accountable. with a few exceptions, and I'm going to talk about Turtle for a minute. So Turtle is a program that I have wanted to work with for a really long time. It hasn't been a budget decision for me. It's been, what does my team have the capacity to take on? Can they learn this tool in the midst of everything else we're doing, right? So Turtle does something really cool. They actually want to stay in touch with us. So I was talking to Chris Evans on an onboarding call the other day, and he was explaining to us the program and how he'd be there, and they'd want us to be successful, and I was like, what? You're going to help us? Like, we can't get humans with any other tech tools, right? Really hard, unless like with, some, if you're hitting a maximum spend, they'll be there for you. We've got to hold them accountable. We've got to shout about what we need. We have to ask for pilots. We have to insist that they're involved. We have to get in writing tech integration issues and how they're going to help us solve them, because too often, you're in a marketing automation platform trying to post to LinkedIn and it's not working. It's wonky in some way, and it's wonky in Pardot, and it's different wonky in HubSpot, and in Sprout Social, it's wonky in a completely different way. And they need to take ownership of that, because as I'm trying to evidence, not only do we not have time, and we clearly don't have time, but why are we doing that? Why do we have to do that? We're being sold all this stuff that has some cool aspects, but it doesn't work. Anyway, we also need to reset the record with our leadership, and Allison is actually going to be covering this much better than I could, but we got to reset the record with leadership, because leadership is hearing about all of this stuff that the content cabal and the tech founders are claiming, and that's why they're asking us to do crazy stuff overnight with an ecosystem that isn't serving us. But we have to reset that record. Allison will cover that more. Really important to me, even though I'm angry, is that we extol the great. We need to shout from the rooftops the tech that's working, the vendors that are great, the partners that are really helpful, because that helps shorten we go down fewer rabbit holes if we can get tips from other people. We gotta extol the great. If someone's done a great job for you, please shout about it. Most importantly, the tech ecosystem, the content cabal, they're not our true north. And they've been our true north for too long, and they cannot be trusted. A lot of good people, there's some good inspiration, but they're not our true north. Our true north are the people in this room, and your colleagues working at other companies. Our true north should be each other. People that are doing great work that you appreciate, especially in similar companies. Allison and I were talking a little bit about just the global behemoths and what they have, and those of us who are serving in small to medium-sized companies. Partner up with folks. Again, sorry, Jane. Jane and I are on the phone or interacting like several times a week just to kind of share, what are you getting for that? What's your conversion rate for that? What's sales doing with that? It's really helpful when we work together, and B2B marketing gives us such a nice opportunity to do that, because not only do they provide really great content, but they give us these opportunities where we can meet and talk and interact and grow our own personal advisory boards. And so really, the salient issue for me is, for the foreseeable future, you guys are the most important integration that any of us can rely on. Really? And B2B marketing is like, I told you should have done it from our system, and they would be right. So anyway, most important integration is you all. Anticlimactic, but we'll still try. This is the good place. Thank you, and I'm happy to take any questions now or later. Y'all have been just terrific. Thanks.